Well, welcome everyone to the ATX DAO Podcast. We are excited to have another episode. So today we are going to talk about
Web3 adoption.
Web3 adoption. So that is a very common topic, but I think hopefully we have some interesting takes on what that is. So what is Web3 adoption before we even get into how we get there?
Well, the question is like, can we find enough sticky stuff to use the technology stack for users to basically want to stick around that product or come back as repeat customers to that product?
Yeah.
Right. I think it really just boils down to that for me.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that on Web 2. It's hard to do that on Web. It's even harder to do that in Web 3. But that's really what it takes. Like, is a user wanting to use a product irrespective of whether it's on Web 3 or Web 2?
Yeah.
Right?
And I agree with that. I think to me, like, it's when we stop calling it Web3 adoption is when it's adopted.
Yeah.
So like we don't like people in Web3 say Web 1, Web 2, but nobody else does.
Yeah.
So as soon as we stop thinking of like, oh, this is an on-chain activity or whatever, it's just how it's done. So like Web3 gaming, people are always talking about Web3 gaming. As soon as you stop having to say the Web3 in it, then that's when it's been adopted.
Yeah.
Like it's just how it is. It's the way you play games. Like at some point we stopped calling online gaming. It's just gaming, and it's kind of assumed that you can play with people around the world.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly right. I mean, this PvP environment of gaming and finance is what we really need to get to. And it's hard. I mean, we've made a lot of great strides, us as an industry, because we're very young, right? Like as an industry, using like the distributed ledger tech to come along this far, especially, with such many great outliers and minds that are in this space, to build all these cool kinds of things that are PvP style environments. But unfortunately there's a lot of, fundamentally, like, is the product sticky? I don't know. Then there's the other question of like, is the UI UX good enough for a user to want to stick around, whether they know it's even on Web3 or whether it's abstracted away. Yeah. Right. And I think this cycle, like everyone has been talking about, like, hey, consumer adoption comes when we have better UI UX or have better game loops, right? Like a lot of the things that I've been thinking about for our own startup selfishly is like thinking about it in terms of gaming terms of like, is it sticky? It's not sticky enough. Is the game loop good enough that users want to come back and they want to keep feeding into it? Whether they want to manja, I want to eat more and more. And like Web2 social kind of got that really right. Like that's how doom scrolling became a thing. But like we need that doom scrolling kind of game loop for our products here. Whether it's consumer facing or grown up facing, like we still need that. And I don't think we are close yet. I think there's some people making important strides on it, but it's like Camelot, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a big part of it is like most that build on Web3 build with the idea that it's always blank to earn. It's play to earn, it's move to earn, even if it's social fi. It's not just social. And it's like as soon as you have those loops being driven because you want to, whether it's for fun or for learning or for whatever it is, that's I think when you get it.
Yeah, like the fi aspect is kind of like, it's really funny. Recently, I've been talking to a bunch of founders and investors, and it's like kind of like we've been talking about tokens, right? And like the token launches and stuff like that, and protocols and how they use their tokens. Like we just came to the conclusion that like if you look at a lot of protocols and then you just take away their tokens, or their protocols work the exact same way, by and large they would, right? They just take their fee denomination elsewhere. Their capital raise mechanics obviously change and stuff like that. But ultimately, that's the kind of real question, right? If you don't have like this token kind of aspect of it and you remove the fi from it, that means your product has to stand in its own merits to see whether that game loop or whether it's sticky enough for that particular use case and the problem that you're trying to solve in the demo that you're trying to solve for. And outside of the earn mechanics and stuff like that, it makes life a lot simpler if you really think about it. Right? Because then you'll know clearly, like, bro, I don't have to like figure out some crazy token incentive scheme and earn mechanics and all this stuff. I would say chains having tokens makes sense, but like a lot of protocols don't need to have tokens. Like it just does not make any sense for them. And that unfortunately puts them into allocating a lot of neural and temporal capital to make that shit work. And it's like, you could just be better using that time to, even just chill and read or make your product better, growing your team, thinking about new markets to tackle. Like that's what I would think about. But yeah, I mean, solving that problem is another weird thing with the UI UX and also having a good product.
Yeah.
It's a very good point that you made.
Yeah, so let's talk about UI UX. So we've had conversations about this before. I know we were at Happy Hour with Chris Vicio a while back. So Chris was on from Excova. We had an episode back maybe 6-7 months ago.
Yeah.
And then later on we were chatting with him, and I think there was a little bit of a debate around, is the UI important or is it not? And so what are your thoughts on that?
I think fundamentally, so there's two types of, like, if you're looking at, I think UI is very important, irrespective of whether it's a consumer grade kind of UI or like a professional kind of UI, right? Like, look at marketplace designs, right? Like traditionally there's, like in the DeFi space, there's AMMs and order books, right? Like if you use an AMM, it's very simple to use. And there's some core kind of advantages to use an AMM, depending on the markets and the instruments you trade. And of course, chain efficiencies and all that stuff. But then if you look at an order book, it's much more daunting, right? Like if I put an order book in front of my mom, she's going to be like, what the hell is going on? There's so many like flashing lights going on here. It makes pump.fun look like not seizure inducing, right? But like for a professional level trader, like that kind of UI is the modus operandi, right? Like that makes sense for them. So I think learning to build a UI in relation to your demo and the product that you're trying to solve and the mission you're trying to tackle makes a lot of sense. So saying that UI is just not important is, I just think like, I think you're really rolling the dice here, right? The other thing I would say is that, like, I think building a UI that's easy to navigate and fun to use and come back to use is the super hard thing, right? Like, that also has to kind of work with your modal, right? It's like, if you look at like how Facebook did the like button, right? That was like a thing with their feed. Like many people don't remember, like when Facebook came out, like their feed that was there versus the post feed was gone, right? It was a different thing. The timeline came out later. Then the like button was there and all this stuff added to that UI. So it became more of a streamable data feed that you could look at, right? Kind of like how we look at modern day Facebook or Twitter now, right? It's like a constant feed of data that's coming in. And like, those are also things that I very much lap into the UI. Like it fundamentally changes the core experience of your product. And so I would say, having people that think in those kinds of modalities is very, very important, because you could have the greatest fucking product. Well, what's the point if it's on a fucking terminal, bro? Like if it's on a terminal and you're trying to use that product, like, would you ever want to use Twitter on a terminal? Like I would hate it. It would just suck.
And I think it depends on what you're building, right? So like if it's literally just a DEX, like, do you really care about a lot of bells and whistles and pretty things like that? Or if you're doing something like, let's say it's an art driven product, you're going to care more about that because you're into art. You want like a curated look to it. You want that kind of thing. Like I think of like games, like some games don't need the UI, like Minecraft. My girlfriend makes fun of me whenever I'm playing Minecraft. It's like, what year is this? And why are you using something with such shitty graphics? You have this fancy PS5 and you have like graphics that could run on an original Nintendo. But it's like, because that's not the point. The game is fun. And if they spent all this time making the graphics look amazing, then I wouldn't, like, I'm just trying to build stuff and avoid creepers and stuff.
Well, I think also like, but I think that some of these companies are making conscious decisions to like not want to, either they're like not they're not allocating capital there because they're like, they know that maybe that burn would be crazy, or they're just specifically taking that UI aesthetic. I think rarely do people fall forward on the UI side of things without having opinions, because design is like one of those things that's very subjective, right? Everyone from like literally the lunch lady at like, middle school to like, the CEO of like a large company can have subjective takes on what a UI should be. But I think it's like figuring out what your design aesthetic is, and obviously thinking about your users that are wanting to do that, and like the culture that you're trying to cultivate as well, right? Those kinds of elements usually make design decisions for you that you would be like, oh, this is the kind of way you could choose to do this. So I kind of agree, but I kind of disagree also, because like I think that like fundamentally like DEXs, like even like you look at an AMM, like maybe you can choose to just be a copy pasta of a UI of an AMM like everywhere. That's fine, right? Like AMM design fundamentally on the UI side does not really change a lot. It's kind of pretty standard. But making design choices of like even stuff like something simple like, do we have bubbled boxes and curved edges versus sharp edges? Do we have color schemes? Do we have sizing things? Where is the placement? What are they seeing? How are they navigating? All these things I think um, get more deeper down that design rabbit hole. But I think that like you should be thinking about them at least. Like, don't just automatically dismiss them, because then it's like the question is like, well, then we can just zero it all the way down to a terminal thing. Like maybe that's maybe a little bit of a giant leap, but I just think like, yeah, I think that people do make thoughts about it, but I do agree with you. It's not so important for everything, but you should be thinking about it at least.
Yeah.
And you might not have to allocate a lot of money in design considering the demo you're choosing to serve. Maybe they're just so grossly underserved and that all the existing products are just so bad that you can come up with like, a terrible UI and your product's just really good and you can just like kill it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, let's talk a little about the user experience too, because I think that's historically been one of the big friction points for anybody that's adopting Web3. Like this whole idea of a 12 or 24 word seed phrase, that's most people aren't going to want to do that.
Yeah.
And even people that do want to do it, like they're just worried they're going to lose those words. My girlfriend sadly lost her seed phrase she didn't have a ton in there, but still she lost her seed phrase, and it's like, okay, I don't think we're going to find it because I know where it was, and I think it's definitely decomposed in some trash heap somewhere. But I mean, do you think complete abstraction is the only way to do it? Like, do you think that there's some future version where, like, because like there's things like Privy that take that whole thing away, and all you have to use is an email address, a social handle, a number of different things, and you could still use Web3 without ever having to think about a seed phrase. Do you think that's the way to do it, or do you think that there might be some in-between place that people...
I think that the industry will come to an in-between place, but I think that it's obvious to see that like trying to like if you have a consumer grade product, it's silly to think that you don't use something like Privy or Reown or anything like that to like onboard that set of users to make it easier to use your product.
Yep.
Right? Like you don't want to gate them with the idea that, oh, you have to use this particular wallet to use this. It's like, this is nonsensical, bro. Yeah. Like you're betting that your product is like so good that like people are going to take this extra step while they already have 1,000 different things going on in their day to basically do this. Yeah. Now, you could have that product. I could be completely wrong. But it doesn't take very hard to just meet users where they are. I just believe like that's the smarter thing to do.
Yeah.
And like thinking about social like abstraction, wallet abstraction is the right way I would think about it. Like getting someone who has Gmail or Discord or Telegram or a phone number to easily log in is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Right. Now, but to the latter point of the middle ground that I think is there, I have a thing that like everyone is trying to do the super DApp thesis, right? If you know, like Elon's trying to do the super DApp, right? He wants to make Twitter the social town hall. It's going to be how you pay your bills.
We all want to be WeChat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I think that a lot of people are going to fuck up the experience that way. A lot of people, because it's going to be so hard, right? And I think there's very few applications, even looking at it like from the Web3 level, that would offer a compelling enough like experience for you to be like, oh, this one wallet, which has a super DApp, has everything in it on me. Like it connects to all the chains. I can perform whatever functionalities. I can game with it. I can talk with it. I get all my notifications there, and this becomes my end-all be-all pipeline. Like I think that's very hard to do. And it becomes very noisy as well, right? Because like imagine managing all that visual clutter and that data that's coming in whatever kind of format. I think someone may crack the code on it, but I just think like what's more practical if you're a founder or a chain to just be like, when you're launching a chain, just make sure you have wallet abstraction and social abstraction as your go-to. I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive because then you're like, oh, I want to have my own CDK wallets. It's like, no, bro, you want to have like, you don't want any kind of like hurdles to have other users from other ecosystems or even from Web 2 to come on to use your product. So I really encourage people who are using Privy and Reown and stuff like that, and it just makes way more sense. Like for your project, like, when you spin that up, I'd be like, bro, like, make sure you do that. Don't never just be like, I'm just going to use this one wallet. It's just the laziest thing you could do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wallet choice is definitely a big one for me. It's just kind of like I have a few that I cycle through and use different ones. But like whenever it's always a friction point whenever I want to interact with a different chain that only has one.
Yeah.
Because then it's just this whole like, okay, how do I bridge to it? There's all these things like just nuances in the interface. Does it connect to a cold wallet that I have? Do I have to? It's just a whole bunch of things. So
yeah,
I think that like the more interoperable it can be, the better.
I agree. And by the way, this is all Tequila 512, the best damn tequila. I just drink it by the gallon.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. So multi-chain. So there's thousands of chains now. What is it?
I wouldn't be surprised.
So what do you think? Like, how far away are we from calling each individual chain what it is, into people just thinking of it being the internet? Like we don't think of we talk about this a lot. So you don't think of like, oh, this is an AWS server, or this is a Azure or whatever like that. You think it's just the internet, it's the cloud. But people don't think of blockchains that way. They're very tribal on the chains that they're in.
Yeah.
And even though it's not that difficult in a lot of cases to bridge, there's this mental barrier to like, oh, I don't want to bridge. It's hard to do. And it's like a lot of chains you can bridge very quickly. Like you can bridge in seconds sometimes.
Yeah.
If it's an L2, it's a little bit longer. But what do you think about that?
I think it's very funny. It's funny that you asked this question. So this morning, walking the dog, there's another dog in the neighborhood. We let him play sometimes and stuff like that. So it's like kind of funny. Like when my dog's walking in this direction in the neighborhood, their dog runs out in the yard, and usually she's like there, and she's like, it's time to let him play. And I'm like, okay, I can use a cup of coffee. Why not? So this morning in the conversation, and they're an older couple, right? Shout out to Sue and Oren. If you're listening, they're great. And they asked me the question about Ethereum and Bitcoin and stuff like that. And the way I described each of these tokens is like, think of it as like computer networks, right? And it's just a network. Like Ethereum is a gas token to use on this network. It's like you pay your internet bill, you pay it in US dollars, right? Think of it as like if you're using the Ethereum internet or the Bitcoin internet or the Solana internet or the Avalanche internet, the Doge internet, whatever internet, you're just paying in that, right? And then once they understood that, it became a lot easier. The problem like that we are seeing right now towards this adoption topic is that there isn't enough like proper interoperability for a seamless execution of it. And I think there's a lack of also protocol kind of cooperation that occurs across all of it, right? You see, so what we see is like a lot of protocols that are like building multi-VM stuff, right? Like I met a guy recently who's like doing modular DEX stuff. So he's like, you can launch DEXs with my network in like multiple different places. I'm like, that's great. So that means like one company will be like, I built a DEX on EVM, and then I'm going to build another DEX on SVM, and then I connect it, and then that's great. But I'm like, what would be better? And like, I think it's a lot harder to do, mind you, would be like, you just look to see the counterparty on that side, and you trade off with those people there on that side. Like that kind of, I haven't imagined that flow truly, but like, I think that that's more promising to the idea of like seeing a seamless internet, right? Where you see protocols that perform the same functionalities on their chain, and they look to expand their product offering and their user offering through cooperative relationships with other kind of protocols that in the other chains. And maybe it doesn't have to be a DEX to DEX pairing. Maybe it's a DEX to a lending pairing, or like a DEX to a perps pairing, or like maybe it's a DEX to a gaming pairing, right? Like all that stuff occurring, I think is very good. And then it becomes to the point where that actual protocol or that DApp turns into an app. And that's really what you want, right?
Yeah.
Like for the first time very recently, I started hearing, and a VC actually even tweeted about this recently too, like at the conference, that like, we're not hearing the word DApps very much anymore. We're hearing the word apps, which is great. But like to really take on that moniker, I believe like there needs to be this seamless kind of fluidity across utilizing these assets in various functionalities that extend beyond this specific protocol functionality. And so they can just move through this. So it becomes like a fish swimming through water. The fish doesn't realize it's in water. It's just in water.
Yeah.
That kind of ubiquitous experience, I think, takes a lot of like cooperation. And yeah, like there's huge UI UX improvements to happen through that. Like that could happen through the super DApp thesis, right? Where it's like if you have such a great experience on one singular application that it just allows for you to just navigate these chains like the internet, that's easier and it's easier to curate and do. That's why I see people wanting to tackle that. But it's a huge, huge lift. Yeah. It's the reason why you don't see very many super dApps, right? Like WeChat is the exception. It's not the standard like that you can do. Yeah. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to that future, honestly, because then it's like people like irrespective of age groups will just be surfing the internet. They're just surfing like Web3 as part of Web2 as part of like Web1, yeah. Right? And that becomes a beautiful experience. Yeah. I don't know, fingers crossed. I'm rooting for the next generation of people to tackle that problem. I know my neural bandwidth does not have the capability to solve that, but you know, I'm hoping that there's someone out there that's brilliantly working on something around these kinds of strategies and thinking about how to really think about this from a protocol level of cooperation or UI integrations that make it very, very good.
Yeah, and I think there's some steps to doing that too, even with like certain wallets will have kind of a unified gas wallet that you can keep, like Rabby, I know is one that has that. Yeah. So I know Rabby's one that does that. So you just make a deposit into your gas wallet and you can interact on any chain that you need to. If you're not exchanging tokens, that's generally fine. Like if you're just signing things like that, it's not a big deal to do that. If you want to move tokens onto that chain, it's a little bit more steps to it. But yeah. I think that's maybe one step toward that. Maybe one day it'll be a unified, like here's what you can actually transact in, and they have whatever they need to with, you know, bridges on other sides to make it all happen.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of like lower level problems that like we even didn't think about, right? Like for a while there was like hex data that we would get, and it'd be like, how the fuck? What am I fucking signing here, mm-hmm. Right? You wouldn't even be able to interpret that. Like that should just be like in normal language. It should be in like layman's terms so that I understand like what am I signing, what's happening. That wasn't there for a while. That's only like a relatively recent innovation if you really think about it, right? Like paying for gas in like the same kind of unified token, having it like bridge and swap with those contracts natively embedded in it. That's also a relatively recent thing too, right? That was not there during the early days. So I think there's a lot that we can do to make it easier so we can build these primitives so that like that UI flow goes seamlessly. But I agree with you 100%, man. Like I think wallets are the first place for the testing ground for it, and then it becomes apps that become that testing ground for it. Yep. Yeah, I'm excited for that future. I think it's pretty close because I think there's smarter people than me that are really working on that, and smarter people than you that are working. Well, probably. I'll just speak for myself.
Both of us.
But,
yeah.
Like,
on the tech side, definitely you're the smart.
No, so I would definitely no. But like.
So listeners / viewers, if you have not picked up, a lot of the time I'm like staring at Ash, like barely understanding what we're covering. So not in a bad way, you know, like I'm dumb, I have to like learn it kind of way.
No. I mean, like, dude, like, I'm just all trying to figure it out too. But like, I just think, yeah, I mean, going to this point, like, I think it'll be special when that future does come along. Yeah. And I think that there's some pretty cool people working on it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, awesome, man. It was good chatting with you about this. Those that are watching or listening, we definitely love your thoughts on that too. So drop in the comments, like, what do you think? What do you think it is going to take to do that? Is it, is abstraction the thing that's going to drive it? Is it real world use cases? Is real world assets? What do you think it is? We'd love to hear from you there, and we can chat about it more. So,
yeah.
But yeah, great chatting, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on again. Stoked to do this every single time, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone.